Welcome back, artists. I'm Wyatt Paints, and this week, my sponsor SuperShark continues to carve their way through the absolute DC universe. This time, they're bringing to life the battle goddess of the Justice Trinity, Wonder Woman. I haven't read her books yet, but I'm sold on the design. Death by Snoo Snoo it is. But there's plenty of time for that in the future. For now, meet me over at the painting table. I'm gonna grab my brushes. Let's get started. As I begin, I need to apologize for the lighting. I had a light die out on me, but it gets better, I promise. If you could see, you'd be looking at a stone rubble base with a Wayne Industry cornerstone. So a simple progression of gray tones dry brushed on will give me a pretty natural looking stone. Since Wonder Woman's going to be covered in warm colors, a thin wash of blue tone is going to create some extra contrast by cooling down these neutral stones. I did avoid staining the cornerstone just so it doesn't get lost in all that rubble. Once the blue tone is dry, a quick light dry brushing a spaceship will catch on the edges and brighten up the rocks nicely. And the slight creep of blue on the cornerstone helps tie it in with everything else. And fix my lighting. Next, the base has a couple of props to take a look at. And you might notice this wonky pole. It's not the sculpt, I just had a bit of a print error. But I felt it fit the ruined vibe, so I pushed forward. First, I gave the town marker a quick base in death metal. It's a great paint to start from to get that gothic feel. I followed it up with a light scrubbing of weapon bronze to help bring out the lettering a bit. But it's going to need a bit more help in the readability department. Thankfully, a touch of oil stains and a detail brush filled in the invisible letters in no time. A slash of dark brown took care of the stake so I could focus on the lamppost. Starting with a scratchy rough base of gunmetal. Then I gave the sign the previous death metal and weapon bronze treatment. Now with the colors blocked in, I weathered everything up with some dirty down rust. Followed by a clean stippling to knock down that effect. This is gonna leave me a well-worn and rusted street lamp. Except for those panels. While a fancy OSL might be slick, it's a giant pain to pull off well using just brushes. But I do plan on doing something cool with just a few steps of layering. Step 1, base all the glass panels with chaotic red. This is going to establish the initial glow. Just be careful to preserve those rusted metal bits. Now, with some thinned down molten lava, I pushed this new color to the top 75% of the panel. And being so thin, this took a few coats. But it's set up for the next color, lava orange, now only covering the top 50% or so. Then demonic yellow blocked into where the light source should be. And finally, moon dust to mark in that flickering flame. Then, using thinned down paint of the respective colors, I went back over the transitions to blur them out. Using short strokes like this can help mimic those streaky flaws that can happen in hand-blown glass. Just keep track of where you're using each color and it should come together nicely. Then, once everything's dried, a few passes of orange tone normalized everything and eases the blend even more. After plugging the finished lamppost into the base, I certainly got the feeling that I was on the right track. Now, before I work on Diana, I need to handle her warhorse. Here's where I'm going to call in an audible by basing in Wyvern Fury. I just turned off my brain and went a bit silly, because I'm painting a horse bright red, so best not to pay attention too much and just get it done. And don't worry, I don't plan on leaving it like this. It's just going to be the foundation for a super bright yellow of inner light. And again, turning off my brain and just getting this into all the deepest details. I think this red and yellow needs a bit of explanation. Now, while this horse is normally depicted as skeletal, I have a bit more of a meteor steed to get creative with. So it seemed like the perfect opportunity to use one of my least used tools to create something really cool. But it starts with getting down some intense glowing undercoats, and making sure these deeper areas are nice and yellow will help sell that hot lava look. Next, a move up to lava orange, and a diluted dry brush will tint all the raised areas to show the cooler spots further from the core. And you may see me doing the wings in the back. I first had the idea to have them match the main body with a fiery undercoat covered in brimstone, but doing so will render all the sculpted detailed feathers unreadable. Plus, with outstretched wings pose, it would lead to having two very large black walls blocking your view of Diana. So I ended up scrapping them and repainting. Sometimes you make mistakes. Finally, a light dry brush of molten lava across the peaks set me up with a solid lava undercoat. And even the wings look good, despite not working out. But it does make me want to paint a phoenix statue or something. Who knows? Now, for that brimstone, I'm going to be using crackle paint. This is a paint formulated to dry to a cracked surface, allowing the undercoats to show through. You should note, you can make your own crackle paint in whatever color you want using crackle medium, but due to how much surface I need to cover, I went the wholesale route, as this tub only cost me about $9. As a quick test, I put some on the texture palette. One area super thick and random, and the other one thin but even. Now, they suggest up to 48 hours for it to dry, but with a hairdryer, it's a whole lot faster. Thanks to the test, I got to learn that thick layers tend to lead to large chunks that stay uncracked, while thinner applications have a nice even crackling. So I'm planning on sticking to thin and even. But while I say thin, I'm still talking about almost a 1mm layer. This is why I blacked out the chains beforehand. This is going to keep them clean of any extra texture when I paint. Other than that, it's just a matter of applying a controlled thick stipple over the entire body, followed by a blow dry session. After which, this steed was looking sweet, but fair warning, even with a few varnish coats, this crackle paint is super delicate. But thankfully, it wasn't that big of a deal to dab on some more crackle paint to cover up a bald spot. Next came the very slow and light-fingered chain painting process. I knew I was going to lose some paint chips during this, so I didn't let it bug me. I'll just try to think of it as adding a bit of randomness. Besides, if it does get too bad, I had already planned on adding some more crackle paint later, so no worries. Just focus on shining up all those links. And because I like any opportunity to use dirty down rust, it's going to show up again to gunk up the chains a bit before adding a few touches of verdigris, which I'm less of a fan. It just dries a little bit too dark for my taste, but it only takes a few touches of gunmetal to knock back a bit of overzealous weathering. Since I have my metallics out, I might as well just go ahead and take care of the horse armor, and it won't even cost 99 cents. If you know, you know. First, a dry brush of gunmetal and a stippling of oil stains, followed by my go-to dirty down rust. And to finish things off, Mithril in a light dry brush brightens everything up and knocks back those shadows. Before I move on to Wonder Woman herself, I'd like to take a moment to thank my subscribers over on Patreon. Currently, it's the most direct way to help support the channel, and your monthly contributions are greatly appreciated. And to show your donations being put to work, I'm going to be picking up a new camera soon to film my videos, so be sure to look out for that. If you would like to join the Painting Pantheon, you'll find a link to my Patreon below. Even joining for free shows your support. And to show that appreciation for the support, I'm going to be giving away one of the first statues I painted for SuperShark, Cyclops. I'm even going to cover the shipping. Unfortunately, that does mean I'm going to have to limit it to the United States. Otherwise, it would just cost me way too much. Maybe in the future, if the channel grows big enough, I could think about doing a worldwide giveaway. For now, I'm going to have to keep it local. All you have to do to be eligible is to at least be a free member on my Patreon, and when you see the giveaway post a comment saying, "I want this." After about a week, I will pull a name from the entrants and send out the model. But if you don't respond, I'm just gonna pick somebody else until this model gets shipped out. So check your messages. And while you're on Patreon, you should also check out our sponsors page, SuperShark. They provided this week's sculpt from their stable of high quality statues. And they're still offering their supersized welcome package for joining. Be sure to check them out. You might just find your next project. In the meantime, it sounds like Wonder Woman's getting a little Xena Warrior Princess on me. Let's get back to work. To get Diana going, I might as well start with her feet and some black metal. Checking out reference pictures, Diana pretty much boils down to dark metal, light metal, red metal, and more black. So keeping this base layer as sparse as a highlight layer lets me keep it super dark while bringing in a bit of shine here and there. But I couldn't just leave it at that, so I reinforced some of those highlights with a touch of gunmetal. Following that, red gemstone thinned down came in clutch when it came to blushing up the red sections of her armor. While I will come back to this later on, right now I'm more blocking in the color, so my focus is only getting smooth, thin layers. Once the reds got placed, it's time to get going on the skin. To get an undercoat going, I used orc blood. I mixed in jasper starting at 50-50. It's a nice purplish shade that works well at giving a warm tone under the skin, and thinned down to slowly build up the lighter color on the highlight surfaces, eventually ending with pure jasper. I wish I can give you a more step 1, step 2, step 3 instructions on how to do this, but this is very much a thing you get better at through practice. So just keep painting it until you love it, or at least like it. After a while, I kind of stopped thinking about how I'm going to paint skin and just kind of get on with it. Given enough practice, it starts to work out for you. Taking a look at the torso, it looks like the skin is working out, and focusing on the skin gave the metallics plenty of time to dry. So it's time to go back with oil stains to do a bit of panel lining. This is going to give definition to the armor by pushing these areas towards black like metallics tend to do, while any overspill can be cleaned up with a quick finger squeegee. Sometimes the most available tool is the best. While the black lining is drying, it's a good time to throw some dark gray onto our waist cape. Just a gray highlight is enough to sell this as dark fabric. And while I had it out, I took care of those belts holding on her armor pieces. To continue jumping around randomly, I decided the red sections needed some highlighting, so I mixed in some Sycorax bronze with the gemstone. In general, I kept this to edge highlighting and using the reflections from my painting light to help guide me for the flat areas. For the lighter silver of her sword and certain sections of her armor, a basic gunmetal got me started. Just don't forget to put a nice heavy dose of oil stains in all the crevices. Then I switched to fairy dust, which is pretty much metal medium, so using it straight from the bottle is about the brightest metallic you're gonna find. Another random jump and I'm taking care of her hair, which was a fairly quick and painless process of a rough dry brush of deep gray. While Wonder Woman is usually high fashion, this version of her seems to only brush her hair to get the ash of war from it. Then a touch of black and red took care of her lips. And here's about where I decided my hands just weren't feeling steady enough to do her irises. Thankfully, due to her status, it's not out of place to leave her with those god eyes. I guess this means in the future, I just gotta print bigger statues. The last detail to go is her tattoo, which looking at photos can range from simple to very ornate. I opted for the more simple route, took a deep breath, and painted boldly. That's a fancy way of saying I painted without a clear picture of how it's gonna go. And I didn't forget about those wings. After I had a new set printed, they got a deep gray base followed by a medium dry brush of ash and a super light pass of spaceship exterior. After which, all that was needed was to glue her up and call her done. And Wonder Woman, she came out pretty darn good. I don't get to use crackle paint nearly as much as I want to. Just unfortunate that it usually doesn't fit, so I'm glad when I have an opportunity to. And while I'm still glad I repainted the wings to do them in gray, I think I could have thought about that transition to the brimstone just a little bit more. Either way, it doesn't take away that this is another amazing sculpt from SuperShark, so a big thank you to them for this one. And as a final reminder, if you'd like a chance to get your hands on Cyclops, be sure to head over to my Patreon to enter. While you do that, I'm gonna get started on the next project. So as always, thanks for watching, stay creative, and always enjoy the process.